Hey folks, Grant from Gunspot here for Toolster.com. In today's video, we're going to be discussing what you should do if an intruder breaks in the middle of the night. So in reality, we're not going to be kitted out. We're going to be in whatever you wear to sleep in. And so there are some limitations to that. If you're walking across broken glass and you have bare feet, you might end up being in a die-hard type situation with cut up feet. And that is an issue. But what you didn't see in the dramatization is probably the phone call to 911. And realistically, I've been in this situation before where I thought I had a burglar, even one situation where I had a burglar, and you tend to second guess yourself. Is what I think I heard really what I heard or what is going on? And so sometimes you may be hesitant to call 911 until you really know. And of course, when we make those decisions, if it's the wrong decision, then we're going to be behind the power curve as far as starting, help from getting to us and arriving for us. So, chances are we're going to have to solve that situation more so on our own. And then there's always that possibility that we call them and it ends up being the cat knocking over a vase or a glass, something along that lines, that it didn't end up being a burglar. So, we have to, really weigh the situation. What we heard, was it a dream? Was it a nightmare? Was it kids getting up in the middle of the night? And formulate a plan from that. But it's something we need to think about ahead of time. We just can't, I'll figure it out that time, when that time comes, because you're going to be racked with indecision and you'll probably make more bad decisions than you will right decisions if you haven't put forth some mental effort ahead of time. So step one, if you really, for a matter of fact, know that you have an intruder in your home, for me, I'm going to be trying to get myself in between that threat and family members. Whether your family members are small or large, I'm the alpha of my house, and so my goal is to, protect my family. And I'm assuming that's going to be the same for you. So I'm probably going to make some pretty big strides to close that gap. Now, the structure that we're using here isn't really large, so there's a tendency that we can't show that like we would a real home setting. But I'm going to probably bypass some things and not do detailed searches just to get past my sons or daughter to that point where they're protected. Of course, I'm going to be calling 911, and part of that 911 call needs to notify them that I'm armed, that I am trying to do a few bit of investigative things to see if I can protect my family or stand in that gap. They need to know that the caller is armed, and then at that point, I'm going to have to pass that phone off to the wife so that I'm not distracted with phone and gun and searching. So after I've done that, I'm going to start my methodical search, get to that point where I know I can protect my family, or at least they're behind me and the bad guys in front of me. And then at that point, I have to make that decision whether I should go on or just wait at that place for law enforcement. So as you're, dealing with this situation, you may be tempted to turn on the lights. Or as you saw in the dramatization, I had a light affixed to the gun. And there are some pros and cons of turning on lights, of illuminating a room. And a lot of that is you're letting people know that you are there and that you are not still that sleeper. And so that can be either good or bad. You know, we don't know what's going on in the intruder's mind. We don't know how prepared they are, whether they're committed to attack the family or whether they're there just purely for monetary gain. And at the first sign of being discovered, they're fleeing. So me personally, I'm probably not going to turn on the lights, and here's why. If it's truly a situation where this happens in the middle of the night and I'm sound asleep, the last thing I want to do is blind myself. I'm going to be stuck in night vision. My eyes are going to be dilated. I'm going to be receiving as much light as is ambient. And by turning on those lights, it's just going to make it much harder for me to move and function. So I'm probably going to leave those lights off. I'm sure there's a situation where I may change that, but generally I'm going to leave those lights off. The light that I have on the gun, I'm also going to be very disciplined about its use. I'm not going to turn it on unless I really feel like the threat is right there and I want to assert dominance over that threat by casting light. And of course, anytime you shine light in somebody's face, you're maintaining or you're showcasing that dominance. Their first thought is probably going to be a weapon or something along that lines. They don't know, but you are in that position where you're confident that you need that light, and you are giving that light to their eyes to cause them to either make that fight or flight decision, and of course give you that input that the light would give you on whether or not to shoot or not. Okay, so real quick recap. We know that we've got a situation. We're going to call 911. We're going to pass off that phone. We're going to, of course, arm ourselves and start our methodical search through the house to that point where we feel that it's either safe to wait on law enforcement or we're having the situation resolved. All right, folks, thanks for watching. That's been how you should deal with an intruder that breaks in the middle of the night. Remember, train hard. Your family deserves it.